A commercial lease ends. The tenant leaves the property believing everything is fine. Then a letter arrives from the landlord surveyor demanding £75,000. This is a dilapidations claim, and for many tenants, it becomes the most expensive part of the lease. So dilapidations are claims made by the landlord against tenants for breaches of lease obligations relating to the condition of the property. Most commonly, these claims relate to repair, decoration, reinstatements of alterations, and yielding up obligations at lease end. The claim is usually supported by scheduled dilapidation prepared by the landlord surveyor. So how does the liability arise? Most commercial leases require tenants to put the property in good repair and condition. At the end of the lease, the landlord assesses whether the tenant has actually complied with those obligations. If not, the landlord may claim the cost of putting the property into a condition required by the lease. For example, replacing damaged flooring, repairing ceilings and walls, redecorating throughout, removing tenant alteration, and reinstating the original layout can become extremely expensive, and importantly, the claim is based on the lease wording, not what the tenant considers reasonable. So let's have a look at a practical example. A tenant leases office premises for 10 years. At lease end, the landlord alleges breaches including damaged flooring £18,000, redecoration £12,000, ceiling and lighting repairs £15,000, removal alterations £20,000, the total claim being £65,000. The tenant argues the property was already old, but without proper protection in the lease, that argument may fail. So how can tenants protect themselves? The best protection starts before the lease is signed, and one of the most important protections is a properly drafted schedule of condition. This limits the tenant's obligation by recording the property's condition at the start of the lease. Without it, the tenant may be required to put the property into a better condition than it was originally in. Tenants should also negotiate the scope of repair obligations carefully. For example, internal repairing obligations instead of full repairing obligations, excluding structural liability, limiting obligations to keeping rather than putting into repair. Another key issue is reinstatement of alterations. The lease should state that alterations only need to be removed if the landlord requires reinstatement during the term, not automatically at lease end. Otherwise, tenants can face large reinstatement costs unexpectedly. From a drafting perspective, exposure can often be reduced significantly. Examples include capping dilapidations liability financially, limiting decoration obligations, linking repair and yielding up clauses to the schedule of condition, excluding inherent defects and fair wear and tear where possible, preventing supersession claims when a landlord intends to redevelop. This is critical because many dilapidation disputes are won or lost based on drafting long before the lease ends. Under Section 18, subsection 1 of the Landlord and Tenant Act 1927, a landlord's claim for disrepair is capped at a reduction in the value of the reversion caused by a breach. And if the property is going to be demolished or substantially altered, certain repair claims may be reduced or defeated entirely. But relying on litigation later is risky. The best strategy is always controlling liability at the lease negotiation stage. Dilapidations are one of the biggest financial risks in commercial leasing. Most disputes arise because tenants underestimate repair obligations at the start. However, a well-drafted lease combined with a strong schedule of condition can significantly reduce exposure, because once the lease ends, your negotiating power is largely gone. I hope you liked this video. We'd be grateful if you could please like, comment, subscribe. Thank you.